All right, so welcome Krav Life, and
Thank
I'd
you.
like to welcome Mr. Don Lambs to the show. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Awesome. So if you can tell our viewers, like where are you located, like where's your studio, and yeah.
Yeah. So my studio is called Valhalla Krav Maga, and we're located in Oak Park, Michigan, a few miles north of Detroit. For those of you just kind of get a reference, or in Michigan, we always do the thumb and point to where we are in the map.
Nice.
We've been here for about 5 years now. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's been challenging, obviously, the last year and a half, especially. But I think, knock on wood, we're going to get through everything just fine. And we're taking new students now, new clients. So it's, I think we're out of the woods.
Yeah. And is it just the one location for you guys, or is there multiple? Yeah.
No, just one. We are actually, ironically, we are almost going to move to a new location last February and double our space. I was kind of on the border about it, and I didn't really like the new space that much. And thank God we didn't, because had we moved to a new space, all our bills would have been much higher. We probably would not have survived the shutdown. As it was with the shutdown, our overhead was low enough we were able to skate through it. So kind of dodged a little bit of a bullet there on that one.
Yeah, that was an unforeseen thing. Like, how would you plan for that? And you'd never think of that in a million years, right?
Yeah, no, I wasn't thinking, the world's going to shut down next month. I was thinking, I'm not sure of the location. I was thinking everything but the world gets shut down for a year.
Exactly. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Did you start in Krav Maga, or did you take martial arts beforehand? Like, how did you get into this?
I had never taken a martial arts class in my entire life. I was a competitive swimmer for a long time. I coached swimming. I did the weight training for a local high school swim team for a number of years. And I was working as a bartender actually at one of the local casinos. And a friend of mine had found Krav, and he would call me every morning. You gotta take Krav. You gotta take it. And I'd be, I've gotten home from work like 3 or 4 hours before class would start. So eventually I'm like, listen, if I drag myself to these classes, will you leave me alone? Will you stop calling me and wake me up? He's like, I'll leave you alone. So next chance I got, I dragged myself to one of the classes, and I fell in love with it instantly. I thought I was going to die during the first class. Like I think most students do. But I fell in love with it instantly, signed up like a week later. And, that was back in November of 2007, October 2007. So here we are now, 15 years later. It was really love at first sight.
Oh, nice. And when did you open up your studio?
I left where I started at in 2015, and my wife and I started Valhalla in March of 2016. And we were we moved to our current location in October of 2016. Yeah, I think that's about right. I forget the actual date, but right around October 2016.
Okay, so about 5 years. Cool. And so what organization were you with? Like, were you with one of the?
I was and still am with Krav Maga Worldwide.
Okay.
And the school I was teaching at, I had gone as far there as I could go. So I left them, and so I'm still affiliated with Worldwide. No real complaints with that.
Cool. And so what do you see for like your training, like your future training? Like, where do you want to take it?
Right now, I'm currently working on my black belt. So hopefully this year, if not next year, I should go I'll go for my black belt test. And then after that, I want to do a little bit. I don't know about taking my second Dan test, but I just want to train for it. I started working with local police departments a little bit more, so I want to work with them a little bit more. And then I also want to do a little bit more BJJ. I do just a little bit of it, but I think it's a really nice compliment to Krav and boxing, which I've been doing lately. Basically, I just want to keep, as a lead instructor and an owner of a school, it's hard to keep growing personally because you're always helping your students grow. So I think what I've been trying to do lately is find like different avenues. I started working with a boxing coach about 2 months ago. And that's been great. I get to be a student again. And I love being a student, right? As much as I love being an instructor, it's so much fun to learn something new. Yeah. And taking like a traditional boxing element and bringing it into Krav, which we already have some boxing, obviously, but just it's a whole different level that I'm seeing stuff at, and it's been a lot of fun. So I guess to answer your question, to find ways to continually learn and grow and keep myself mentally engaged, which I think makes me a better instructor for my students.
Now, how how many Krav Maga studios are there in the Detroit area? Like, is it an area where there's a lot, or
there are many? Within the Detroit metro area? There are 1, 2, 3. There are about 6 schools that I know of that are reputable that I would send people to if they didn't want to come train with me. Well, 5 of theirs, myself being one of them. And then there are a bunch that I wouldn't send my worst enemy to.
Right.
You know, so it's a pretty decent sized community. We're growing. Yeah. One school was shut down during the pandemic, but I think he's reopening in a few months. So there's a pretty decent interest in Krav in the metro area.
Yeah. Well, yeah, 5 or 6 studios is not a lot for Metro Detroit, right?
No, but it's also pretty spread out. Like, the Metro Detroit's spread out a lot. Yeah, I don't think there's any actual in Detroit right now, but the suburbs are starting to get a little bit more attention to it. So it's
good. You definitely have opportunity to grow.
Yes.
So that's awesome. Now, with the whole pandemic and everything, and Detroit's always had a reputation for being a little bit more on the aggressive side anyway. What have you noticed a rise in people's anger, I guess? Like, are people more tense? Is there an increase in violence? Have you noticed any of that?
Yes and no. So Detroit is, there's a lot of misconception about Detroit, but there's also, unfortunately, a lot of reality. Downtown Detroit is a lot of fun. It's a great area to hang out in. Lots of great places to go to. And a couple of years ago, very rarely any issues. Last few months, there have been some instances downtown, lots of big fights. And I think that is just tension being released. People haven't been out and about a long time in large groups. There's still that, how come you're wearing a mask? How come you're not wearing a mask? People are still a little on edge about a lot of this stuff. I believe in a few months it'll cool off once people just kind of get back to used to being around other people, right? Because they don't know. I think there's, for good or bad, there was such a big selling of the fear of COVID and the fear of other people that it's going to take a while, I think, for everyone to kind of just go back and realize that the person standing 3 feet next to you isn't going to kill you. You're not going to get sick. You're going to be okay, right? And not that, not to discount anyone's fear or anxiety, but I think that a lot of the problems we've been seeing is just a result of that. And I think I believe that'll go away. I think we're going to be okay. It's just going to take a little bit of time. That's all.
It's like people forgot how to socialize.
Yeah, right? Like you were stuck inside for so long, you forgot how to act out in public. And even myself, first time I went to a store last week with not wearing a mask, I felt weird. Like I felt weird. I was not wearing a mask. It took me a moment to like, no, it's how it's supposed to be. Last year was an aberration. Now we're going back to how it's supposed to be. So yeah, I think we're gonna get there. It's gonna take a minute, and you combine that with a lot of just this other societal problems we've had over last year. And it's gonna take some time. It's gonna take some time.
Yeah. It's got to pass, right? It can't be like this forever.
It will.
So when a new student comes in and you take them on for the first time, what do you have something that you focus on with them? Is there a certain mindset that you want them to sort of acquire? Like how do you take in like brand new people? Like what sort of things do you teach them?
So I always tell brand new people to, first of all, have fun, right? I mean, we're dealing with some serious topics here in terms of, violent encounters and whatnot. But I believe training should be fun, because if it's not fun, you're not going to want to do it, right?
Right.
So there's that balance between, we're doing choke defenses. Yes, someone's trying to kill you, and it's a very serious situation, and we take it seriously, but it doesn't mean we can't make a joke here or there. So I always tell new students, come in, do your best today. So whatever your best is today, just give me that. Have fun, ask questions. Don't stress yourself out needlessly because you can't punch as hard as the guy next to you. Well, maybe the guy next to you has been punching for 5 years, you've been punching for 5 minutes. Don't worry about that. I try to encourage questions. I try to encourage people to just, relax. I want it to be an opening experience. I want them to feel comfortable within our community. And so I try to really instill that from day one. Look, we're here to train. We're here to learn. We're here to get stronger, faster. We're also here to have a good time. We're also here to crack a few jokes. It's going to be okay. And, I think I've lost some people who've been coming and want to be like super hardcore and we're all going to die if we don't learn this today, blah, blah, blah. And I've also gained a lot more people, I think, with that kind of more open experience. Like, hey, yes, we're going to be serious. Yes, we're going to train hard. We're going to have fun. And honestly, me personally, I don't want we must be serious 100% of the time people. I just don't want them in my gym. There are other gyms for them, and that's great. It's just for my community, I don't want it.
Yeah, let's let off some steam with jokes, right?
Right. I mean, you kind of have to, right? You can't always be just, I don't know, super aggro and
Yeah. No, I get it. And especially since the reality for most people is they're never going to use their Krav.
Right.
Right. They're never going to. Yeah.
Right. And the goal is to never, ever have to use this stuff.
Yeah.
But if you have to, it's there.
Yeah. So to train, it's important to train with the proper mindset that
100%.
Right. Like when you're actually doing the techniques, you definitely shouldn't be joking or telling jokes in the middle of your techniques, but definitely before and after, exactly. Right? Is fine to kind of let off steam because, psychologically humans aren't designed to hit other humans, right? No. For most people, it's
weird.
It is difficult for them, right? And it takes time for them to get comfortable to hit someone. Right?
And one of the hardest things to teach new students is how to choke somebody.
Yeah.
Right. They always tend to put their hands like on the shoulders. I'm like, we're not massaging here, guys. I need hands on necks, and that's a hard thing to get people past.
Yeah.
It's just how to choke someone effectively and safely without actually, taking the air. I always get questioned, how come this technique is higher up? It's an easy technique. I'm like, it's an easy technique, but it's a hard attack. It's hard to get people to attack that way until they've been in the system long enough where they know that they can attack someone in a certain way without hurting them. It's more of a psychological, as I'm sure you've discovered over time. Just trying to get people, I need you to hit this person. Not hard, but I need you to try to hit them in the face.
Yeah.
Or else the punch defense is useless. It doesn't really make a difference. Right. So
they have to punch straight, not off to the side.
I just knew one time I was working with, we were working on inside defenses, and he kept on throwing his punches here, and I wouldn't do anything. He's like, why aren't you defending me? I'm like, because you're not trying to punch me. There's no reason for me to waste my energy.
I don't have to.
Energy, right? And so he's a really nice guy, which is awesome. But I'm like, I need you to hit me, because when it's my turn, I'm going to try to hit you, just so you know. Not hard. I'm not trying to hurt you, but I'm going to aim for your jaw, just to give you a heads up. And after a while, you eventually got it, and if you will get there, once you realize that we're all here to learn, we're all here to help each other out, and the best way to help each other out is to send a good attack.
Yeah.
Right?
So do you have your curriculum structured that way, where it's easier attacks are first, and then harder attacks are later? Like you were saying, like it's harder for people to psychologically choke someone, so you put that at a higher level where they're more comfortable, or at least they're in a class where they've worked with the same people a long time, so they're more comfortable doing that, rather than like a wrist grab, which anybody can pretty much do.
What I'll normally do is, like, it's your first class, and you're attacking someone like on the shoulders. I'll mention a few times, but I won't harp on it too much. Right. Second class, I'll mention a little bit more. And as you're there longer, I start getting more and more like hands on throat, hands on throat, hands on throat. And then by the time you use like level 2 or above, there's no more excuses in my book. Hands on throat, or you're wasting time. So but in getting levels, there's a lot of things you have to let slide, just because you have to let people get comfortable at their own pace. We have a sparring class every Tuesday, and I encourage everyone to take that class. And it's funny, like every time someone's brand new in that sparring class, I always spar with them first, mainly because I trust myself more than any of my students. Right? I know I'm not going to lose control. And it's so funny, like they're afraid to hit me, and I'll like hit me. Yeah. And I'll actually sometimes I'll have to move my head into their fist, right? Just because I need them to get comfortable hitting me, and I need to get past that fear. So it's funny, like I'll be like headbutting their fist, like, look, it's okay, you're not going to hurt me, you're fine. And I guess that's a good thing that most people aren't inherently violent. I guess overall it's probably a better thing for our society. But at the same time, a little bit of violence is sometimes what the doctor needs, So
it's the whole thing is, if they're not attacking. So like what I tell my guys is that you have to attack your partner properly, because you are training them to deal with this situation out in the real world.
Right.
So if you don't do it properly, you are basically setting up your partner to die out there.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. You want them to be safe, so you got to attack them properly in here so they're safe out there. Right?
Yeah. We always talk about, the guy on the street isn't going to care. They're going to try and take your head off. So just like you just said, try to take their head off without taking their head off.
Yeah. Always be respectful, for sure. Now, do you think that's an ingrained human thing, or is it just our society has just taught us ever since we were little that violence is bad, violence is bad, violence is bad, and so people have that ingrained in them?
I think, based on some books that I read, some studies I read, humans, for the most part, don't want to be violent against other humans. Some people have no problem with it, obviously, right?
Yeah.
We know, even some of my students, they're good people. They have no problem trying to hit you in the face. They've never had an issue with it. But I read a really interesting study about training in the Army, and how they realized, like in World War I, most of our soldiers would not shoot the enemy. They would shoot to miss. They didn't want to kill another human. They altered the training methods for World War II, and more of those guys shot to kill. But it's still not high enough for them. they altered even more. And by Vietnam, and now it's like 90% of them shoot to kill, right? The training's gotten so good. But on the reverse of that, now you're seeing a lot more cases of PTSD. Because humans most of us don't want to kill another human. So to answer your question, I think a lot of it's just our natural DNA. We don't want to kill each other.
Mm-hmm.
Add to that, saying violence is bad, violence is bad, violence is bad. And I think both those things combined make it harder for a lot of people to attack with intent, even if it's intent to train and not intent to hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, as we know, the people who are out there who don't have those mental blocks, they're going to go right for the jugular. So I think it's, for the most part, humans don't want to hurt each other because it doesn't really help us as a species.
Mm-hmm.
But we're training for the people who don't have that problem.
Yeah.
So we have to not have that problem for an hour a day, 2 hours a day.
Exactly. Exactly. So you came from a athletic background, right? And do you still do that stuff? Like, do you still coach swimming and all that, or have you dropped? Well, obviously not right now, but I mean,
no, I've been coach swimming since I became a full-time instructor. I love doing it. I love working with the team. I just don't have the time.
Okay.
Running a small business, being the owner, lead instructor, father of 3. There are only so many hours in a day, I still swim for myself because I love it. Mm-hmm. I still weight train. I still exercise. I still train myself because I love doing it. But yeah, no, as far as like coaching swimming, no. Eventually, maybe someday, I'd love to be able to do it full part-time, just because I miss working with the kids. But it's not going to happen for at least another 3 or 4 years.
Okay. Yeah. Because I'm thinking that that's like one area. That's one place I've never. Because you know how we do like training outdoors and in the snow and all that stuff. It's like never done it as a pool.
For a while, for about a year ago, I was trying to figure out how to do like a Krav class in a pool.
Yeah.
Right. Like water fighting. And the biggest problem I was running into is that no pool wanted us there.
No.
I get it. Obviously, I get it. Right. They're like, you guys do what? No. Hell no. Right. Yeah. Okay. I understand.
We're just going to drown each other. I don't know.
Right. We're just going to drown each other. We'll be okay. I'll be right there. You'll be fine. Right. So, and even like state parks and whatnot, I was thinking, well, let's go to state park. We'll find a lake. There's 1,000 lakes around here. And I looked into it a little bit, and I'm like, they're not gonna like that. Like they're gonna be upset if they see a bunch of people drowning each other. We're gonna have the Rangers on us in a heartbeat. So I haven't given up on it yet. There's got to be somewhere around here we can do it without getting hassled. I want to do it. I'm going to find a way to do it. I just haven't found a way to do it yet.
Have you tried checking out like someone that owns a farm or something like that owns like a substantial amount of property?
Honestly, I've not thought of that. I've just always thought like pools or like state grounds. I've not thought about private ownership.
Yeah,
that might not be a bad idea. If I could buy someone with some,
or if someone has like a bigger gun range, like they tend to have a lot of land around them.
Yeah,
like that. Definitely your local militias.
Yeah.
I'm sure they would be all about that.
Oh, we have some funny people in Michigan. It's funny. One of the cities I work with, one of the police departments, the captain, he started his career in law enforcement in Thumb, right? So,
yeah.
And he was saying that they had more officer-involved shootings in the Thumb than they do in Metro Detroit. Because in the Thumb, you have a large militia population who do not like anything related to anything state or federal government at all. So he's like, you'd be on a routine traffic stop, pulling someone for speeding, and someone in the woods would be sniping at your car. It was like not an unheard of experience.
Wow.
I'm like, awesome. Like, okay, great.
So the thumb, what side is that? Is that like Port Huron?
Lake Huron side.
Yeah, so that's like going north to like
north and east. Yeah,
north and east, so, like Port Huron and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Ontario side. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I've driven up there. It's
it's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and and I've stopped at a couple rests. Well, I guess they're not really rest stops there, but they're gas stations with stuff. And yeah, the people definitely seem interesting up there. But they're all nice. They're just
they're all friendly.
I was going, where? How is this Michigan? But
it's
I definitely know what you're talking about there. But I didn't realize that they would snipe at people. It's like,
officers' cars, because they want nothing to do with anything that resembles any kind of government.
Wow. Now, do you how many do you teach a lot of law enforcement, or do you have a law enforcement program that you do?
I have 5 students right now who are active LEO officers between some local cities, border patrol guys, and I work with a few of the cities around here. Like every few months or every once a year, they'll do a they'll call me out and work with their guys. It's not as many as I would like to work with, but a lot of the agencies around here just don't have the funding for it, and they're especially over the last year or so, with everything that's going on with law enforcement, a lot of cities are just staying away from anything that even resembles anything that might be violent. It's politically charged time right now, and I get it. Everyone's trying to figure this out right now. Again, hopefully cooler heads prevail and people realize that although you may not love police, they're needed right now, and not that, police departments can't do a better job as well. It's a two-way street. There's a middle ground, I think, from law enforcement officers, civilians, and guys like us who train both, that I think we can actually help kind of bridge the gap a little bit. Like you can see these guys in a different light when you train with them, and they can see other people that, I'm saying, it's one of the things I love about Krav, and I'm sure other martial arts have the same experience, is that you train people from all walks of life.
Yeah.
Right? So you can be like, oh, I hate cops. I hate cops. You can find out the guy you've been working with for the last hour, who you've been making jokes with for the last hour, is a cop. Oh, wait, maybe I don't hate all cops. Maybe all cops aren't bad, right?
Yeah.
And vice versa, the cops civilians don't respect us and civilians are weak, and the guy you've been working with for the last hour is an awesome dude. And what I'm saying? So I think there's a bridge that I think we can, to some degree, help maybe close that gap a little bit. And that's a pretty cool thing. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, cops are just normal people with a job that has a heavy responsibility.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that the thing that people don't understand is that cops deal with the worst of the worst on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Right. So when you're being belligerent and not complying, where does their mind go? Their mind goes to the worst case scenario that could happen to them. And then you tack on the fact that most of them are not as trained as they should be. All right. That's a recipe for disaster. And you're right. It has to be both ends. The average person needs to be respectful and compliant, and the police officers need to be better trained. Right.
Oh,
yeah. I think that would go a really long way in reducing the incidents that we see, because I don't know about you, but when you see these incidents on YouTube and these videos, and you're going, well, there was a much better way that cop could have done that. Right. There was a much easier way that didn't need to result in 10 punches to that guy's head. Right. And
they haven't been taught that.
No, and they're just doing what they know. Right.
Yeah.
And just because we know it doesn't mean they know it. And then but it's almost like the system sets them up to fail, because they're liable for what they do, but they don't give them the tools to do it.
No.
Right.
That's what last time I talked to like friends of mine, and they're like, you know, how come this cop did this? How come this cop did that? Like they saw a video.
Yep.
And I'm like, because they didn't know any better. How would they know any better? I'm like, you guys would be shocked at how little hands-on, hand-to-hand training they get. Mm-hmm. You'd be shocked. I'm like, I was telling one of my students, I'm like, the average student who trains for like 4 or 5 months with me has more hand-to-hand experience than the average police officer.
Yep.
And it blows their mind. Like, how is that possible? I'm like, because they're not trained in that. The departments don't want them to do that because of, you know, a lot of it's unfortunate politics, you know, wrong voice they're being listened to. But yeah, there's a huge perception gap, I think.
Yeah. Well, especially when you have a hierarchy where the civilians that have never had to do the job are telling the people doing the job how to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
don't do this.
Yeah.
We need to do that.
Yeah. It's like, you're going to, you know, if I follow your rules, you're going to get me killed. Right.
Right.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. Because here it's the same situation. They're woefully undertrained.
Yeah.
You know, most of them are really good with their weapons.
Yeah.
Like with shooting, but you can't shoot your way out of every situation.
No.
And
nor should you, really.
No, that should be a last resort sort of thing. Right. But yeah, no, I definitely agree with that.
I will say that I don't know about Canada, but I am seeing this, I think, a really positive thing. A lot of the younger police officers are starting to be a lot more vocal about calling out bad cops. And I think that's a really positive development, in that they're not willing to cover up for bad cops anymore. So I think they're finally starting to see that it makes their job even harder.
Yeah.
Like, protecting the one guy who's causing you all these problems isn't making your life easier. It's actually making your life a lot more difficult. And I really hope that trend continues, because let's face it, not everyone who has a badge should have a badge.
No.
Right? That can be said by any profession. It can be said by our profession. Not everyone who's an instructor should be an instructor.
Exactly.
Right. Obviously, with certain jobs, the consequences can be a lot worse than others. But I really hope that trend continues, where you get rid of the guys who don't really need to be there.
Now, do you think that the current environment is making it that the problem is actually going to get worse, because the good people that you want are going to be more hesitant to apply to become officers because of the environment right now?
From what I've been hearing from some of my LEO friends is that, they're having a hard time recruiting, right? They're having a really hard time recruiting. But more than that, a lot of the guys who you want on the force are thinking about leaving because of all this stuff going on. They're like, we can't even do our jobs anymore, but yet our lives are still in danger every day. So they're seeing a lot more early retirements or just flat out resignations, and that's a worrying trend.
Yeah.
One of my guys who's, he's like, I don't know, I got 3 years left so I can retire, and that if I had more than 3 years, I don't know if I'd make it. So I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned that the guys you do want are being forced out, and they're having a hard time replacing those guys. Obviously, you have to have. I'm sorry. One second here. I thought I turned off, but I'm saying you have to have a certain amount of people on the force. And if your pool you can draw from gets shallower and shallower, you're more likely to end up with people you don't really want.
Right.
So that double-edged sword.
It's definitely is worrisome, but and then that's where it's going to be even more important that people take their own personal protection into their own hands, right? Because you can't rely on law enforcement to be there when you need them.
And
right.
even if you're surrounded in a city with nothing but great cops,
yeah,
unless they're right next to you, they can't help you.
yeah,
You know,
you have to be responsible for it.
Yeah, the guy who's attacking you right then and there isn't going to wait for the cavalry to arrive. You have to be your own cavalry.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Well, it's been great talking to you.
Yeah,
if someone wanted to come by and train with you, where would they go? What's the best way to get in touch?
Website valhallakravmaga.com.
Perfect.
Or shoot me an email, Don, D-O-N, at valhallakravmaga.com.
Mm-hmm.
First class is free. Come in, try it out. I think you'll love it. I think you'll see what we do makes sense and has value. You won't see a lot of fancy flowing movements. It's not really what Krav does.
No.
But I think that I think nothing else. After your first hour, you won't feel like you wasted your time. Whether or not you end up joining your community or not is up to you. But you won't feel like you wasted your time. I think you'll learn something even from that first hour. So come on in, give it a shot.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Have a great day.
All right. Have a good day.
You too.
All right. Perfect.